I think fall might shape up to have a little bit more activity. It won't be business as usual, but I think we'll probably see a little bit more activity than we did before.
Yeah. So I think that these interest rates are biting. So I think the opposite. So let me argue the opposite because, first of all, nobody knows.
Yeah, nobody knows.
Nobody knows. I don't even think the Bank of Canada knows. They won't know what's happening. No, seriously, they don't know.
Nobody knows.
They're making their decisions based on the data.
I get it. The Toronto real estate market is confusing. Whether you're a new or experienced investor or just looking for a home to raise your family in, join us at Broadview Table Talks as we sit around the table with my friends and talk about the real estate and the ever-changing market in Toronto.
So we're going to be talking today on, I don't know what episode we are, but we're going to be talking about today the fall market, right?
Yeah.
What we're going to see, how it shapes out to be.
Anticipating how it's going to be based on what we've seen so far this year.
Okay, so what are you seeing?
Well, earlier in the year, it was a lot tougher. Interest rate hikes and everything scared a lot of people off. So a lot of people were freaking out. They said, sales down by 50%. People aren't listing as frequently. And then it turned out into something a little bit more cyclical. We saw a little bit of burst of activity here and there. And
for sales, right?
For sales. And then understandably, summer market got a little bit quieter. I think fall might shape up to have a little bit more activity. It won't be business as usual, but I think we'll probably see a little bit more activity than we did before in the previous months.
Why?
Well, big news was the Bank of Canada paused rate hikes recently. They decided not to do it on the 6th of September. So that's probably a good indicator that people who wanted to move before are gearing up and getting ready to move again. And those are the people who are able to. That being said, of course, there are the people who can't and people who have to stay where they are. And then, of course, we've got the people who absolutely have to move.
Okay. So you think in this last quarter of the year, you think things are going to boom because we have more activity and more people wanting to transact that haven't transacted over the summer. Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily boom, but I'd say they'd definitely be incentivized to jump in while they can.
Yeah. So I think that these interest rates are biting. So I think the opposite. So let me argue the opposite because, first of all, nobody knows.
Yeah, nobody knows.
Nobody knows. I don't even think the Bank of Canada knows. They won't know what's happening. No, seriously, they don't know.
Nobody knows.
They're making their decisions based on the data that they see that right before the rate hike announcements,
of course,
right?
Yeah.
So they get key indicators like all of a sudden, just before the rate hike announcement or the rate announcement on September 6th, the GDP numbers came out and it was actually negative.
Yeah, it was.
Right, and then the previous quarter Q2, it was actually revised down. It was actually at I think it was like 3 point something. They actually revised GDP growth to 2 point something percent. So we're in an economy where gross domestic productivity for Canada is actually lower.
It's lower. And unemployment's higher.
Right. And 2 negative quarters of recession is a formal definition of a recession. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to hit there. And the reason why I don't think that the market's going to go crazy in the fall and winter, yes, there's no rate hike announcement. I don't think there'll be another one. Who knows? No one knows. In October,
right.
They're projecting this 50-50 chance of whether it's going to be a rate hike or not in the rest of the year. I think they're done. I could be wrong. I'm not willing to bet on it, but I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Yeah.
And because we're pretty much near the peak. Now, the only difference between this time around versus last time when they paused rate hikes back in January, end of January 26th, I think was the last one. Then they had no more rate hikes in February. I think there was April and then May. There was no rate hikes. The difference is back then you can get a mortgage at under 5%. A 5-year fixed mortgage at 4.79, I think was the lowest I saw.
Yeah.
This time around, the lowest that I'm seeing now is at 1 percentage point higher.
Yeah.
At 5.89 or 5.69 as well too.
Yeah.
So, however you slice it, it's going to be in the sixes, right? And if you're looking for a shorter duration, it's going to be even higher than that.
Yeah.
But you're somewhere in the sixes, most likely. And that's for the best rates.
Right.
A lot of people don't qualify for that because you got a stress test at 8%. So I just don't think that we have the same mortgage rate relief that we had back then.
Right.
So I think these interest rates are starting to bite. I think people that need to sell or have to sell are going to sell. And so I think the months of inventory is going to increase. Right now around 4% or so. I have 4 months of inventory.
4 months of inventory,
something like that, which is kind of a balanced market.
Yeah.
But if we have more and less sales or more active inventory and less sales, then the months of inventory is going to shoot up to like 5s. Who knows? So I think that we're going to see more inventory in the market and less amount of sales,
Right.
personally. But I could be wrong. I don't know.
No one knows.
I don't know.
I mean, the same people who have to sell also have to buy something to move into as well. right? These are the same people who are looking to make that move, make that upgrade, or make that next transition in their life. So they're looking to get into something else. Mm-hmm. And in a downward market, they're still going to have to go somewhere. So they're still going to be transacting.
Yeah, but it could be rental too, though, right?
Could be rental.
From what I've been reading, the rental rates have gone up by 11% or so in the Greater Toronto area, year-over-year growth. Yeah. And housing the average price is like 0.3 or something percent increase from in last month. So it's pretty much flat, but it's still increasing slightly, on the average price. And I know August is kind of hard to compare because it's kind of a weird market.
Yeah, kind of that quiet market between summer and fall.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's see what next the September results come out in October in a couple of weeks from now. I personally think average price is probably going to be negative, but I could be wrong.
Average price in August grew like ever so slightly.
Yeah, 0.3%.
Yeah. So I think might carry on.
Okay, maybe. We'll see. I mean, it all depends on what happened last year, right? And I just think that there's a lot of inflation. So, okay, the reason why prices might go up a little bit is because there is inflationary pressure.
Yes.
Right? Whether it's, deglobalization, this whole just in case kind of inventory thing. So companies are hoarding inventory just in case there's another boom of whatever. Right. And, the trend of offshoring now, right? Not offshoring anymore, bringing it back. Producing goods locally as opposed to buying from because of our currency is weaker. Yeah. So I think that there's a potential that they might raise rates if we have an inflationary pressures.
Yes.
Right. And I think people are kind of uncertain right now. The people that don't have to buy are kind of uncertain that there might be another rate hike. There might be, yes, you could fix it and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, bottom line is that it's harder to qualify. It's really expensive to buy. Something that kind of made sense for an investment back then definitely doesn't make sense right now. Definitely doesn't make sense.
Oh, I mean, especially for investors. Yeah, it doesn't.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
If you're looking to buy in the long run, sure. I think that there's all the signs are pointing towards the prices going up in a few months, few years. If you're looking backwards, because all the money's made in recessions, right? When markets are down and there's always uncertainty. So I heard a really good quote, actually. It said that if you think that prices are going to drop 20%, just negotiate something for 20% less. Just get it now, right? What's the point of waiting any longer, right? In my opinion. So if you...
Or finding that person who's willing to sell it to you for 20% less.
Right. So you got to keep throwing low balls out there and all that stuff, right? So I don't know. I just seen the market, in my opinion, it feels a little bit slower. It feels a little bit slower in terms of the transaction volume. And I don't want to compare and look at the granular week-to-week stats or even the day-to-day stats. It's so hard to track that. And I think you
can't really build a trend on such short term.
You can't. No. You can't. I mean, you can plot it out in a graph, and there's people out there, if you search the internet, you'll find the weekly results. But I think it's way too granular. You can't get accurate data from that.
Yeah, buyers and sellers don't necessarily dictate their behavior on what happened the previous week. They tend to look at longer term trends.
Right. And even for that matter, I don't even think the actual local, the trends really matter. I think it's more situational, depends on where you're at. If you're a kind of discretionary buyer, you're more looking at macro trends, right? How you're doing your job. You're looking at the reasons why you have to move in the first place. Maybe you got a bonus or something, or maybe you got a job increase, salary increase.
But that only happens. And they absolutely need space.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right? So it could be higher income. It could be life situations where you need more space or less space. And all that stuff is all based on, in my opinion, the economy. What's happening in the overall economy, not so much what happened, what everyone else is buying or selling, right?
For sure.
So not to say that the local stats don't matter. Of course they do matter, right? Because it shows a trend.
Right, but it's not in a vacuum. They have to consider all the factors.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Exactly what I'm trying to say. So I don't know. I don't know what the fall market's going to hold, but I think that there is an opportunity for prices to go up as well too, because
of course,
again, I'm seeing more supply out there personally. But it comes to the point where buyers will realize that this is pretty much the low point, and they've been waiting for a long time, and now's the time to jump in, right?
Right.
I don't know.
That's why every now and then we have buyers coming out of the woodwork, and they're looking for opportunities. It's because they've felt the difficulty in actually getting qualified for a mortgage. So to them, it's either an issue of either qualifying now and then paying whatever real estate costs now, or waiting until it's easier for them to get approved, but then dealing with an unknown factor of how much the property, the real estate prices are going to be in the future.
Yeah. I think that in the future, prices are going to be for sure higher because all the immigration that's happening, the number of non-permanent residents here that are just eating up the rental supply, just causing a boom in the rental supply for sure, because they're not just coming here buying things, right? First of all, it's 25% tax. It's pretty hefty to do that.
It is.
But I think that there's a nonstop immigration, and we're not keeping up with supply. Like, I don't know if you saw in the article last week, I think there's over 30 projects in the GTHA, Greater Toronto and Hamilton area, that have actually been not canceled, but they put on pause because their developers are waiting for better times, right, for them to launch their projects.
Yeah, so that sort of gave our numbers quite a big hit because we were expecting that housing supply to actually come to fruition.
Well, no. So that actually only launch when they launch it, they're coming out 5 years later. So that's not going to be an immediate thing. If you're talking about housing starts, that's a different story.
Anticipated to be in 5 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
We anticipate to have that as part of the whole housing initiative that we wanted to have a certain number of housing.
1.5 million homes by 2030.
Exactly.
Right in Ontario.
Yeah.
We're not going to hit that target. There's no way. That's 150,000 homes that we got to build every year, and we're only releasing like maybe 40,000, 50,000.
Right. So every time we hear a plan to actually develop more housing, it feels like Hail Mary. It's like, okay, guys, we have to keep doing this. We have to keep incentivizing people to start building houses.
Oh, did you see also on top of that, speaking of incentives, there was a new rule that came out. The federal government's going to eliminate HST on purpose-built rentals.
Oops, sorry, I mean GST.
I did.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is very cool.
Because the cost of taxes for building supply is friggin' expensive in Canada. It's so expensive.
It's very expensive.
Like, you think about it.
It's a very big portion that cuts into the margins.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you're building let's call it $1 million for a unit, let's just say, right? A value of $1 million. You're paying 13% on that.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Somebody's paying for it, and it's the end user for sure, because it gets passed on to them.
Yeah.
But that eats into your profit. So, like, they say somewhere like 30% if you factor in HST, first of all. Then there's the carry-on fees, and then also the development charges in Toronto, that is, right? Which is
Charges
really
levies,
parkland dedication, all that kind of stuff, like all the Section 37 or whatever. All that stuff adds up to about 30% of the cost. Which is nothing. Like, there's
a part of the cost, because there's still other costs as well. In addition,
that's what I mean. But that 30% goes nowhere. Like, it creates infrastructure because the city's poor. I get it, and they need money to build the roads and the schools and the healthcare and all that kind of stuff. I get it.
Yeah,
but like, that's a big chunk of change. That's a big cost. Not even to mention the delays it takes to build something. So it's going to be hard to meet the supply demand factors. Even though the supply to meet the demand. And we have a nonstop immigration like coming into Canada. Like, the policy is insane, right? And it's kind of catch-22. What do you do? So if you don't bring enough people in, we're going to have problems with meeting our healthcare demands. I mean, our future
population growth demands.
Well, yeah, you need the population growth to take care of the aging population, because the financial resources to help pay for the healthcare of the elderly people is not being met, because there's no tax revenue, there's no productivity, and then the cost of labor is going to be skyrocketing. We can't find people to do jobs, so things don't get done. Houses
economic
don't get built.
growth will become stagnant,
right? So having people in here, it becomes deflationary because it brings the cost of labor down. Right. On the other hand, bringing people here also is inflationary because they consume services, right? And the argument is that I think it's more inflationary than it is deflationary, because when you bring people here, the first thing they do, they're not looking for, like, a few of them are higher paying jobs, but most of them are the lower paying jobs. Right. They're the jobs that Canadians don't want to do, or for the cost that they're paying them. So they're going to come here and they're going to be renting. They're going to be eating. They're going to be transporting themselves to work and stuff. So they're going to be spending a lot of money into the economy, which brings prices up, in my opinion.
Of course.
And not to mention, we don't have a housing policy. We don't have enough houses to house them. So I think all that's to say, in the long run, housing is going to be, for like the foreseeable future, for the next decade at least, if not longer, it's going to be a supply and demand imbalance. So the only thing you can control, because you can't control supply that much, like it takes a long time to ramp up the supply, and there's just only so much we can do. So
limited space, finite resources.
You name it.
Hoops to jump through.
NIMBYism, all of it.
Everything.
Right? So the only thing the government really can control, or policy can really control, is the demand side. So they're going to try to crush demand by either increasing interest rates, which, well, actually, that's not why they're doing it. They're doing it because they want to keep the inflation down to 2%. But there are going to be things like taxes on new developments, more taxes even. And like, maybe incentives to, I don't know, build purpose. Well, getting rid of HST is a great thing for sure.
Yeah.
I would argue that I don't understand why purpose-built rentals get HST credits when condos also generally is the rental supply.
Right.
Right. Individual mom and pop investors.
Yeah.
Individual owners are providing rental supply out there as well too. So why did they get the unfair advantage, purpose-built rentals?
Yeah.
Because it's all institutional money that's doing the purpose-built rentals. It's several hundred million to build a building.
Then we'd have to see how much the government loses in HST collections if they were to actually give that up.
Well, I mean, I don't think Canada's poor. I mean, yeah, sure, they're running a deficit too, but they can just print more money.
Which they have been, which is why we're in,
right?
Which is why we're here.
But Toronto's poor, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And there's also another case where, the new land transfer taxes that is, I think, approved now, coming into place in January 1st. Anything over $3 million has another percentage point.
Yeah, higher rate.
Right.
Yeah.
And anything over 4 million is another percentage point. After 6 million, 7 million, 20 million or something, there's like a scaled percentage.
Yeah.
And yes, added overall, it actually doesn't make that much of a difference to you as an individual purchaser.
Right.
To the city, it's going to bring in 25 million apparently. But we're still at a shortfall of like $1 billion, I think $1 billion or $1.5 billion, something.
More than $1 billion.
I think it's $1.5 billion deficit every year. So that 25 million is not going to do anything.
No. It's barely scratching the surface.
But it's a potential for a catalyst for people to transact and move. Mm-hmm. They might want to sell before that actually comes into place, or they might want to buy before that comes into place. So yeah, there is a bull case for transactions to shoot up in September, October, and November.
That could be a good incentive.
Right.
Yeah.
What else is there? What else is there? I guess we'll see what happens with the rates. I don't know. If they raise it, like we're pretty much at the top. Also the bond rates, that's the other thing. Talk about the 5-year bond rates.
Yeah.
So that's at an all-time high right now because I think bond traders are thinking that we're going to be, I don't know, they think that interest rates are going to go up, I guess. That's probably why they're raising rates. No, seriously, right?
Yeah.
So that's not helping the real estate market at all.
No.
Cost of financing is going to be expensive because, as you know, the 5-year bond rate is translated to the 5-year mortgage rate as well too, and the 10-year bond rate also is what we are basing the rates on, right? So, I don't know, man. I don't know where it's going to go.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
I mean, bond rates and interest rates are likely to go up if we can't keep inflation down, but economic growth is slowing down and unemployment's going up. We are stuck in the middle.
Yeah. So, okay. I'm going to summarize it. The bottom line is that in the long run, as we all know, this is kind of common sense, but in the long run, in Toronto real estate, it's very bullish.
Yep.
Prices are going to go up.
Yeah.
There's no way to control it. Comes down to supply and demand at the end of the day. And if you wonder why there's so much demand into Canada, it's because like look at other parts of the world. They're all messed up.
Yeah.
There's so much war going on and people come to Canada in search of opportunity, right?
Yeah.
They come from
here. Yeah.
Better economic jobs, better welfare, better, just living standard, even for that matter.
Yeah.
Right. Like they come here for diversity, maybe not diversity, but they come here for opportunity. That's number one.
Opportunity.
And probably escape war and famine and whatever else they're coming from.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of messed up places in the world.
And of course, education is a big one.
Education, sure. Yeah, for sure. But I just think like I guess you came here when you're a little younger, like you weren't born here.
No,
you
I wasn't
born
here
too.
Yeah.
So why would you come to immigrate to Canada?
Higher standard of living.
Right. From where you were from.
Yeah.
Right. So I think a lot of people are trying to chase that. And that's why the demand is strong. Not to mention that Canada's opening their borders right now for everybody pretty much because we have these like huge immigration targets to meet our aging population and shortage of labor as well too. So I think that, demand is pretty much unlimited and supply can't keep up with it. So prices are going to shoot up in the long run.
Yeah.
In the short run, in the medium run, there's like, I think it's like 50% of all mortgages are going to reset by 2025.
Right. Yeah.
So every 5 years they reset.
Yeah.
Right. So in 2025, we're going to have to bring the prices down or else the inflation rate down. I mean, interest
rates down. Yeah.
Otherwise we're going to have a huge bomb in the market. Like, I don't know if everything will crash, but like it's going to cause, it's not just the real estate market. So a lot of people want the real estate market to crash and burn, right? Fine, whatever. They want to get in. But the thing is, it's going to create a lot of like other things.
Yeah, it's going to have a ripple effect throughout the entire economy.
Absolutely. Yeah. No construction jobs, no like all the jobs that are supporting around housing.
Yeah.
is not gonna like, yeah, it's gonna crash our economy 100%. So I think the Bank of Canada or the current government in power, maybe it's Liberals, by then maybe it might be the PC party, the Conservatives. But by then, I think they're going to do everything they can to not crash the housing market and bring the interest rates down.
Yeah.
So hopefully it means less deficit spending. Hopefully it means less money printing so that less inflation. Bank of Canada hits the inflation targets and they stop raising rates or even bring it down to spur some economic activity.
Of course.
But if half of the mortgages out there are resetting by 2025, like, and you're used to getting a 2%, like, how are you going to come into a 6% interest rate environment?
Yeah, I mean, at 3 times the cost of interest that they had before, that's why a lot of people who actually started renewing their rates when the interest rate hikes happened, they had to start selling right from the get-go. That's one of the factors why we saw a lot of people selling. So if half of them are renewing by 2025, I mean, it's going to be a tough economic situation.
Yeah, and
especially at 6%.
Yeah. Okay. So in the medium case, in the medium run, short run, I guess short run meaning like end of this year to end of this year, and the medium, I mean like by mid next year, I'd say.
Mid to end next year.
Yeah,
2024.
mid to end next year. I think that also on top of that, I should mention that a lot of people in the past 5 years have, like, the average price. Actually, I just looked at it the other day. 5 years ago, the average price was $400,000 in the GTA, less than what it is today.
Yep.
So right now it's 1.1, I think it is.
Just under 1.1. It's like 1.08 or something.
Right. So 5 years ago in 2017, it was 2017 or 18, something like that. It was 700,000. So the average price was up by $400,000.
Right.
Right. So you can't say that every house has 400,000, but like in equity.
Right.
But for the most people that have bought 5 years ago, when their mortgages are renewing, they have 400,000 in equity.
Yeah.
Right. In the simple case. So if your mortgage is renewing and you have a choice of, you know, your payments going up by 1.5 times or maybe even 2 times of what they are now, and you have 400,000 of equity in your property, whether it's a primary or investment property, investor property for sure, you just can get rid of it, right?
Right.
Primary property, you might choose to downsize, you might choose to rent, you might choose to a different province, you know, cheaper area.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a lot of pressure in the short run on prices because a lot more people are going to be selling. Interest rates are high to buy places, so there's going to be less buyers. And those that smell good opportunities as buyers will buy, fine, right? But the average, general overall, I think consumers are going to be scared to make that transaction.
That's a good point.
So I think in the short run, prices are going to come down. In the long run, they got nowhere else to go but up.
Yeah.
Any questions?
No.
Any comments? Any feedback? What do you think? Think differently?
I still think that there are still people on the sidelines who absolutely have to move, especially from the downward pressure moving upwards. So I think that part of the market, they're still going to push forwards and try to get into the market while they can. Because no matter what, you still have, you know, millennials who are still trying to enter the housing market. You still have younger generations who are still trying to get in. So anyone who has saved enough for a down payment, they're keeping an eye on the market. And I feel like the waiting game has gone on long enough for them, and they're starting to get impatient. So they're making whatever lifestyle choices they can to make the changes that they can. And, you know, the same goes for some of my clients. So through their eyes, I can see that they're doing what they can to move up in the market or to get in.
Sure. And that means, potentially partnering with somebody.
Yeah.
You know, buying with their spouse.
Exactly. Having creative ideas on how to actually get into the real estate market.
Yeah. Or parents that have all that equity growth over the past 20 years, whatever the house paid off. Maybe they're refinancing their place to help their kids pay off a portion of their place, so the mortgage.
Or maybe they're downsizing and using a portion of the funds that they get from their equity growth to give to their kids.
Right. So yes, there is people transacting. There's going to be a large subset of that. And I'm not saying the market's going to go to zero. I just think that en masse, I don't think we're going to have as much transactions as we did last year or last quarter. Yeah. Not spring, but like compared to the spring, definitely. Definitely compared to the spring, which means that I think there's going to be a lot more listings, less buyers. But you're right. There's people that are dying to buy or need to buy that haven't bought and are ready to buy now. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what the fall market holds, winter market. But yeah, it's very situational. And obviously, if you have questions, you can always ask us, reach out to us. Other than that, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next week.
Add it up. Thanks for sticking out to the very end. I hope you got some value out of this. Do me a favor, please press like and subscribe. But more than anything, leave me some feedback so we know what to produce for you going forward. Thanks again.